Welcome back to our reading of the book of John. We're still in chapter 5, verses 31 through 47. We pick up again. Jesus was speaking previously, and he continues to speak now. And it says, "If I alone bear witness about myself, my testimony is not true. There is another who bears witness about me, and I know that the testimony that he bears about me is true. You sent to John, and he has borne witness to the truth. Not that the testimony that I receive is from man, but I say these things so that you may be saved. He was a burning and shining lamp, and you were willing to rejoice for a while in his light. But the testimony that I have is greater than that of John. For the works that the Father has given me to accomplish, the very works that I am doing, bear witness about me that the Father has sent me. And the Father who sent me has himself borne witness about me. His voice you have never heard, his form you have never seen, and you do not have his word abiding in you, for you do not believe the one whom he has sent. You search the Scriptures because you think that in them you have eternal life, and it is they that bear witness about me, yet you refuse to come to me that you may have life. I do not receive glory from people, but I know that you do not have the love of God within you. I have come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. If another comes in his own name, you will receive him. How can you believe when you receive glory from one another, and do not seek the glory that comes from the only true God? Do not think that I will accuse you to the Father. There is one who accuses you, Moses, on whom you have set your hope. For if you believe Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote of me. But if you do not believe his writings, how will you believe my words?" These verses are a continuation of the previous episode. He's talking to the same people, and where previously he was making a declaration about who he was, he's now speaking to them in legal terms to verify that what he has said is true. You may remember back when we were learning about John the Baptist and the fact that he was a witness to the one who would come and save the world, that is Jesus. Witnesses, or those who give testimony, are those who give first-hand accounts to validate something is true. The Jewish law at that time stated that there must be at least 2 witnesses with a testimony that was in complete agreement before someone could be punished for a capital crime. And in this case, the capital crime was breaking the Sabbath. So here, Jesus gives not 2, but 4 witnesses, proving what he says is true. First up, witness number 1, the popular and well-respected prophet, John the Baptist. And Jesus said to them, "You sent to John." In other words, you went out to John to hear what he had to say. And he has borne witness to the truth. There was witness number 1. Number 2, what Jesus says is the works that I am doing. In other words, miracles. Jesus used miracles to authenticate what he was saying was true. You'll remember Nicodemus back in chapter 3. He said, no one can do these signs unless God is with you. So the people recognized when someone was doing miracles like this, God was in essence, authenticating what that person was saying. And in this case, God was authenticating the identity of Jesus. Witness number 3, Jesus says of his Father, "His voice you have never heard, his form you've never seen, and you do not have his word abiding in you, for you do not believe the one whom he has sent." Another way of understanding this abiding in you, his word is not abiding in you. That would be the same as his word living in you, active in you, teaching you, where you would receive understanding. But they rejected that. In a sense, they had heard the words of God the Father because they actually heard the words of the Son, but they refused to believe him. Jesus was that message from God who could not register in their hearts, even though it was true. Witness number 4, the rest of the Bible. Jesus says you search the scriptures because you think that in them you have eternal life, and it is they that bear witness about me, yet you refuse to come to me that you may have life. So these Jewish leaders and teachers were very disciplined in reading the Bible, their Bible, called the Torah, and teaching them to others, but their hearts were not dedicated to God. Their hearts were dedicated to making themselves look good and feel good about what they were doing. It was a cold religion that was detached from God. And Jesus says, how can you believe when you receive glory from one another and do not seek the glory that comes from the only God? In all of us, there must be a realization that we do not impress God by running around and trying to do religious things. Sadly, that's what these religious leaders were about. And they were more concerned about receiving the praise and honor from men and not from God. Each one of us has to come to a place where we know that we are full of selfishness, greed, filthy thoughts, and all kinds of things that God hates. It is at that point that we realize we are under condemnation, and there are no religious things that we can do that will save us from our dilemma. We need to simply admit to God that we desperately need His mercy. When we get to that place, we will look for a way to be saved and find that Jesus is the only answer. It is at that point that we finally are reconciled to God and can begin to live our lives walking with Him in His ways. The religious leaders that Jesus was dealing with had no such connection with God. They were unwilling to admit their utter failure, and because of that, were blind to the one who had the truth standing right there in front of them. Finally, he tells them that he is not the one to judge them. It will be Moses, the one who wrote the books in their Bible that these religious hypocrites studied. There were many things that Moses wrote about a coming prophet, a coming Messiah, and those things pointed to the day that Jesus would come, but they never understood it. And if these teachers could not understand Moses, a person whom they respected and loved from their history, how could they understand and believe what Jesus was saying, a person whom they had no respect for and even hated? Let's wrap it up. Jesus has given 4 witnesses to support the truths that he's been teaching. Unfortunately, men who have a preconceived notion of the truth based on false assumptions and their own sinful desires will find it impossible to receive truth when it is set before them. One thing that people will not be able to accuse God of on the day of judgment, and that will be that he was not fair or clear. Pray today that God will put his truth into your mind and heart, and you will believe it no matter what ideas you had in the past that disagree with his words. Thanks for listening. See you next time.